Okay, hi. My name is Denisa, and I'm going to talk more about the employment relation in the international context. So, the globalization, we know that term, but do we know how the impact of the globalization to the employment relation, especially in Indonesia? Because I'm an Indonesian citizen, and I also student in the UK and learn about the HR system, which is related to globalization, like the economic marker of the labor system, kinda. So, from my experience as well as an employment lawyer, I know that this topic is really a big topic. There's a lot to cover. Do we have enough time then? But I'm gonna make it short. It's gonna be about the opportunity and the challenge, like the critique of Indonesian employment relation system. So we know as Indonesia we have the fundamental norm, namely Pancasila. So basically it's ground norm, and we have to follow that in order to make the regulations, in order to build a system of labor law. And the big question is, do we have already implemented? Did we? Because if we reflect from the job creation law, from the best practice, what have the companies implement in their best HR best practice, labor law best practice? I doubt there is a gap between the fundamental and the best practice. And why I think it's gonna be questionable, it's gonna be like we are far away from our fundamentals because job creation is kind of like more liberal concept. And previously we were the coordinated. So in the world there are two kind of classification in employment relations: coordinated and liberal, like neoliberalism as well. Neoliberalism, like like the freedom of the market, like UK, US, Anglo-Saxon countries, Australia. And the coordinated market is more stable and more legal protection in terms of the employment law to the workers, like Germany, like Scandinavian country, Austria, Switzerland. So both has positive and negative, because in the more liberal country they have radical innovations because they think about the short term. Okay, what's the progress of this month? The shareholders kind of like forcing the capitalism. So it's less protection for the workers, but it's higher innovations and also more flexible. So we don't only have full-time employee, but you can have part-time, you can have internship and partnership, whatever, like the new relation within basically the employer and the employees, like the gig economics as well. It's the sign of neoliberalism. However, the coordinated is more about how the government can intervene with the relation between employee and employer. It's good for stability. It will take a long time to see the result. For example, like Germany, like BWM, Mercedes-Benz, a lot of German manufacturing is really taking care of their quality of the products, and the workers is like a machine. Can I say that? Like really hard working because they have vocational. So after you graduate from the high school, basically you can most of the people there like take the vocational studies, and then they have qualifications like the technical skills, so they can directly go to the work instead of like Indonesia. We have like high school, and then most of the young people going to the university and then end up with like job searching without any practice, like the experience in the industry. So Germany, Scandinavian is good for stability but less innovation because they think about the future. They think in the long term, not in the short term. Meanwhile, Indonesia, who we are Pancasila kind of like in between, but we're not like France. France is also in between, but France has the historical background. So in France, previously it was outlawed, like banned for the union, labor union, trade union, and then now it's become legal. But because these previous experiences and the laws as well, the trade union become more radical, like anarchist, like we know France strike and fire everywhere. So France labor union and typical type is like more anarchist, but the business is more liberal. So the manager tends to okay, profit, 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 and the government is kind of coordinated. They try to influence within the relationship between employer and employees, also because of the historical and the politics there. Even though the labor density, like the total number of the union membership is less than the average of the EU countries, but the labor collective bargaining coverage is really huge. So because not many people involved as a member, but the impact of the trade union negotiation with the companies, because it's more sectoral, so negotiation not taking place in only one company, but also like Indonesia and the sectoral level, covers not only the member of the trade union, but also the whole employees. And there is like like what do they call it? It's like the tripartite in Indonesia, so it's like in the national level they kind of discuss among government, employee, and employer. So it makes France in the Mediterranean classification, not coordinated, not liberal, kind of like in between. The other interesting country is Japan, because Japan is highly coordinated. The government try to involve in the relationship between employee and employer, but the trade union movement usually within the company. So it's not sectoral. The power is not in the sectoral trade union. You know, sectoral is kind of, for example, education industry. So in the sector of education, we have a lot of universities, and within the university there are workers and trade unions. It's like the affiliations, and then at the national level as well. So you can national level, sectoral, and then company. In Japan, the power of the union is in the company. So they have negotiation within the company. Some way it's good if the company like open for the trade union. Some way it's not good if the communication is lacking of good intentions probably. So what's the impact of that? The impact is, even though Japan is highly coordinated, remember the characteristic of highly coordinated mean high number of protections, because government involved to make sure there are like minimum standard for the workers, but less stock market, means like the profit is not that high. because the company basically have to taking care of the legal protection, the minimum standards. So it's not really tend to satisfy the shareholder. But in Japan, it's like the exceptional because the trade union is within the company, so they kind of understand uh, what the company is going to for the objective, like business performance. So the shareholder satisfied with the result, the stock market is increasing, the protection is also increasing. So it's kind of like really high for both. But it's still of Scandinavians and like Finland and Germany because it's more stable. It's a welfare and high protection, and for me, I prefer that. But for you, who has, like, I want the innovation fast, I want the radical innovation, I want to work in the high peace industry. So you can go to the UK or the USA and you can fight for your luck by yourself, because not wondering their system is liberal, so you kind of like fight for yourself. There isn't any like, there is like minimum wage in some ways controversial before 20th century in UK, but basically they just want to satisfy the market, like the money will win. Okay, we're gonna talk more deeper about this. I'm not gonna talk about that. So long conversation about capitalism. Okay, back again to Indonesia. So what we have in Indonesia. In Indonesia, we have the fundamental system, Pancasila, and the job creation make Indonesia become more liberal because we have a lot of flexibility in terms of the contract. So you not only have full-time but also part-time, and more easy for outsourcing. So easy hiring, easy firing as well, because there is like some reduction in the compensation. And even though it's really controversial as well. And also previously Indonesia was coordinated because, let's see, in the law about manpower in 1997, they divide in formal and informal employees. So it's the sign of how the country is trying to protect the workers. I think in the job creation there are also some positive, like the minimum wage for the SME, like the UMKM, is kind of a fair number because they cannot survive with the basic minimum wage within the city or the municipal. Okay, so Indonesia is kind of in between as well for coordinated and liberal, so Mediterranean. We have also like the similarity, I think, with Japan because our trade union is within the company, but we can also have like the affiliation like the PUK, it's a PUK, so like unit business. So the hierarchy of trade union is not only in the company but also in the sectoral, so it's also in the international level. We also have like tripartite, Dewan Pengupahan, and it makes Indonesia more unique. And what do we do now? After knowing all of this, what do we do now? Well, if you're a fresh graduate, I will suggest you to just make a lot of experience. Whatever the contract is, probably you have permanent at the beginning. Probably you get temporary worker, temporary contract, or part-time, or internship. Take it. Take whatever the opportunity available, because as the individual this whole concept is really complicated and always changing during the time, even though Germany, like I said, it's more coordinated nowadays. They more become liberal, and also with the political of the China, it's kind of involved in the globalization as well because red and belt policy as well. So China is not the communist, but it's kind of market priority. Maybe the only communist country that still exists is Cuba. Okay, we don't want to talk about communists. So complicated. Okay, so back again. So that's my suggestion for you as fresh graduate. And if you are the experienced ones, try to value yourself more because we have the culture sometimes like really humble. So it's not common to show off your capability. You have that capability, the capacity, but sometimes you feel shy. You feel not capable, for example. Just be value, like be proud of yourself, like you are valuable worker, you work hard, you you have the qualifications, you've been there in the company for xxx years, and you make the progress for your individual, your personal development, and also the company business performance. So be proud of that. Make the bargaining when you take the interview, and try to have the strategy as well. So you don't want to end up, I think the trend going to be like not job for a living, so you work in the one company for the whole of life. Maybe it's kind of changing, especially for nowadays. I mean, like I saw a lot of my friends like changing job, which is been good. That's good. You kind of like trying to figure out your passion and aspiration, but make sure that you learn something from one job, you make something, and you contribute something before moving. And for the one who are in the public sector, probably you are a PNS, or like BUMN. Um, that's good if it's that your choice. You want to contribute from the public sector. Your policy, basically, your work will impact a lot of people. Careful, but it's your decisions. And trying to reflect and make the self-development plan like annually if you can. It makes you reflect what have you done and what will you do next. So nothing that really like directly impact from the concept of globalization to the workers with the eyesight, but what we did actually was the impact from the globalization. For example, H&M industry, like clothing industry in the UK, they transferred the offshoring, the the boring supply chain to global south, and it makes people in the global south like Bangladesh, Indonesia, Vietnam has low wage, but it's not always bad. It creates a labor opportunity. They get into work, but in some ways it's also bad for the people in the country of origin of the company. In the UK or US, for example, people lost their job because the company transferred the job to the low wage countries. So that impacts as well if the company like don't want to care what happened in the offshore companies in the third countries. So it is complicated in the term of the fairness, discrimination. But like I said, what can you do? But with yourself is just focus on you first before taking care other, before thinking what you can do for the rest of humanity, basically. Oh my god, this vlog is going to be really deep. I'm not planning to have this kind of conversation. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hope that's wonderful for me day. Bye bye. Happy Labor Day.